Going,
All
David?
right.
How's it going, David?
Good. Just I'm in the back of a bus in Oregon somewhere, just trying to make our way up to the next show.
Nice. I'm here in Indianapolis, and it's about 5 degrees outside.
Oh man, I live in Atlanta, and it was 5 the other day, which
Wow.
doesn't happen in Atlanta, and
Wow.
it was a whole different level of craziness.
Yeah, I would not think that would happen in Georgia. That's
Yeah,
you guys are
it was definitely rare.
You guys are on the right part of it. I talked to a friend who's from Portland last night. He said it's about 50 degrees there and beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling like I wasn't feeling the friendly love there from him at that point in the conversation. But
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. Should be a nice day.
Yeah, man, you guys are on the Roadshow tour right now. Last night was the first night of the Roadshow tour. How was the first night? Usually there's a lot of issues that happen on a first night. How did the show go last night?
I mean, I think overall it went well. I think there were some issues here and there, just a couple of little technical things. But everybody that I watched perform seemed to do really great. And, it just, I think the audience, it's not just that they're forgiving, they're just kind of blissfully naive to a lot of the little problems. So you just kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah, a lot of those issues are things that fans just aren't going to pick up on. They're usually behind the scenes, audio, stuff like that, And it's usually good when the fans don't pick up on it, because, I mean, anytime that the fans get the experience of a lifetime, that's the whole point of the concert experience right there. So
it is, and if a band is good, which all the artists out on the Roadshow are good, then that's what people will remember. They're not going to remember if there was a mistake or a little flaw here and there. But when you're on the other side of that, and you're the one trying to deliver the performance, you want it to be flawless or as much as possible.
Exactly, and that's what makes you a professional, is expecting no mistakes, expecting a flawless performance. And but also what makes you professional is not letting it show when those things happen and trying to just shake them off and keep going. And, but it's good that the first show went well. I mean, with a bill like the Roadshow tour, I would imagine it would be really hard for the show not to go well. I mean, that lineup is about as good as it gets. I mean, Jamie.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
I mean, Jamie Grace, We's Human, you guys, Third Day. I mean, come on. Of course, add Skillet on there, and you got for a $10 at the door for the Roadshow.
I think it's something like that. I can't remember what they're charging this year, but it's a bargain. I mean, if you try to buy tickets to anything, any kind of sporting event or any kind of normal concert, you're going to pay a lot more.
Oh yeah, you're looking at $50, $60, sometimes more, depending on the artist and the production. I mean, it seems like the Roadshow's got it right. This is the best way for fans to get to get their money's worth for a show. And I mean, what stands out? Because you guys have done the Winter Jam tour, which is going on at the same time as the Roadshow right now, and this is a similar design to Winter Jam. What really stands out to you about the Roadshow?
Well, having only been on it one day, I'm not feeling like a huge. I don't know how. I shouldn't say I'm not feeling a huge contrast but they're definitely, it's run just a little differently. But it's the same kind of feeling where you've got there's a really cool traveling. I mean, I hate to be redundant and say traveling roadshow, thing, but it really is. If you take the title Roadshow out for just a minute, just what it actually is, it's like a traveling roadshow artist, and there's a camaraderie thing and a friendship and a sort of we're in this together kind of feeling that you get with other artists, and I think it's special, and we felt that on Winter Jam as well. But we're looking forward to being out with a whole new group of artists this time that we haven't toured with, and some who we don't even know them very well. We've over the years we've gotten to know a lot of artists because we've been doing it so long. But some of these bands we've never met and never really heard their music, and so it's fun. It's like we have our little piece of the puzzle to put in it each night, and it's we're looking forward to it. And the other thing is it's not a really long drawn out tour. The first time we've played Winter Jam, it was a little overwhelming because it was like 47 cities. And,
yeah, that's what, 3 months long or something, I think.
Yeah, and it's just, there's a point, there's kind of a, I don't want to say a breaking point, but there's a point where everybody is just kind of like, man, you know, this is hard clocking in each week to do this, you know. I mean, it's not that we don't love our jobs, but it's just the human ability to endure just starts getting, you know, a little bit worn out.
Yeah,
so
well, yeah.
This is a shorter duration.
Yeah, I mean, with a tour like Winter Jam, I mean, it's one thing to have a job where you just drive across town or drive down the street. You're doing the same thing every day. But when you're doing that on top of traveling from city to city, state to state, you know, for months at a time, I mean, it can get tough.
It can, yeah. I mean, you know, it's just, in this one, we're starting on the West Coast, which is good. It gets, I mean, we have more energy now because we're at the start, and so we have a little more energy to make those long flights there and back. But then we'll kind of move a little more east as we get into the middle of the tour. So
yeah,
it's fun. I'm really looking forward to this run.
And you guys are starting on the West Coast at the right time of the year. I mean, it's like negative 20, 30, 40 degrees out here.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys were in, California last night in Sacramento.
Yeah, exactly. It was like pleasant. I mean, I'm looking forward to bringing some of that back to the at least east of the Mississippi a little.
We need it. It's
yeah. I know you guys have been hit.
Oh man, but yeah, a lot of the lineup there's a lot of newer artists on this lineup. I mean, Jamie Grace is going into her sophomore record, We As Human, brand new, which they put on a heck of a show. They're outstanding. You know, Royal Taylor is fairly new to the scene, and then you've got you guys and Skillet, who pretty much, I think, came up pretty much at the same time. Veteran of the game. So it's the perfect way. It's almost like at the beginning of the night you get the newcomers, and then it's like you're going, you know, you're getting the vets at the very end of the night, and I think that's how it should be. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it feels like a good lineup overall.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you guys are going on tour with some of these artists after the Roadshow is done. It's kind of extending it. You guys are doing a small tour with Skillet and Jamie Grace, and then throwing Peter Furler into the mix after the Roadshow is done. How did that come? What led you to decide to do that?
Well, you know, we knew that this tour was only 22 cities, and we felt like we needed to continue on at least through March and do more shows, and because this is kind of our touring season, and normally we would push the touring season back to, you know, basically late February through early May. But since Roadshow was getting started when it was, we bumped everything up, and then we were like, we still have this little surplus of time. We should get in there and do some shows, and we were talking to one of our promoters that we work with a lot, and he said, man, you know, I really think you guys should do a tour with Skillet, and this was actually in talks before we were even doing Roadshow, so we were talking about touring with Skillet anyway, and then it just so happened that it was us and Skillet on the Roadshow bill. So, but that it's kind of just coalesced into another little mini tour, 4 or 5 weeks, where we'll just be out with them and Jamie Grace and Peter Furler, and it's going to be good. You know, I mean, I think it won't feel that different. The structure will change a little, but the night is not going to feel that different to people. So it'll be fun.
So it's kind of just extending the Roadshow, kind of the same sets and the same show overall. Just taking the Roadshow to other markets without the Roadshow. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's kind of it's an interesting way to transition from one thing to the next. I mean, if you came to tonight's show in Portland on the Roadshow, and then you came to the last show of that run that we're doing in March, you probably wouldn't think they were that different.
Okay.
But Roadshow has its own name, and has its own brand, and its own kind of feeling to it, and so I'm sure this next tour will feel unique on its own.
Awesome.
As well.
Awesome. Now you guys are supporting Miracle right now. It came out about a year and a half ago or so.
I mean a little less than a year. It's been just a little over a year now. Yeah, it came out in November of 12.
Yeah. Now your catalog is huge. You guys have, you know, not nowhere near your first record here. How has touring on this record stuck out compared to previous records? Is there much of a difference for you, and what have you noticed with this record?
Well, as far as the touring goes, it hasn't felt that different than previous, the records when we go out and do support. Mm-hmm. The hard thing for a band like us with so many songs is that, it's not like with each album we put out, we make our show longer. We'd be up to a 6-hour show if we were using that logic. So we still kind of have an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes that we're trying to deliver what people would want to hear, and that is very subjective because there are the radio singles that people want to hear, and because that's what they're collectively going to be more familiar with. Mm-hmm. But then you've got the songs that give the show energy that a lot of people may never heard them really.
Right.
If they're kind of just fair weather fans that listen to us when we're on the radio, or they have offerings or a couple of other of our bigger albums. So we're always trying to balance that. How much do we play what we kind of feel like playing, and how much do we play what people want to hear, and we don't want to have the whole night be ballads and songs that make people cry. You just can't do that. So
right.
We're always trying to find that balance, and we all have differing opinions from time to time on what song works best here and there, and it's challenging, but we've all learned to be very accommodating to one another. And if somebody feels really strongly, hey, I just don't think we should do this song anymore, it's just not connecting, or if somebody says, I really think we should do this song because we hear all the time that, man, why don't you ever play this or that? For instance, the song Born Again, we don't play the song Born Again on a regular basis, but we do play it a good bit, and but if we put it down for a few weeks or months, it's funny how often you'll hear, hey, well, how come you guys don't play Born Again? We want to hear Born Again. It's like, then we'll start playing it in place of something else, and they'll go, why don't you play that song? And so you never can please everybody. So.
Right, and then there's fans who they see you once and then they don't see you for a couple of years after that, or maybe they see you a year later, and they saw you play a certain song the first time but not the last time, then all of a sudden they think they never play this song anymore, and really it's been just the one show you didn't play it.
Yeah, well, and then there are certain songs that we have just kind of put down over the years. That we have a song called "Consuming Fire" off our first album, and we love that song. It was like a big song. It kind of put us on the map for a lot of people because it was the song. It won the record label people over the most. I think that was the one they were like, "Oh wow, this is cool. We could do something with this band." That was back in 1995. Those conversations were going on. But we had that song, but it's not like we still play it because we have a million other songs that have energy, and that people are going to be a lot more familiar with stuff that we've put out in the last 5 or 6 years. They just are, because I don't know, it's just, and that's been kind of a blessing and a curse in a way, because we get to go, like, every year, every album that we put out, we put a few singles out on the radio, and then they get out there, and you have kind of like these, you always have these new recruits of Christian music fans that are coming in every few years that are now familiar with those new songs, but they don't even know the old song.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like getting to be a new band again to a lot of people, which is really great, except that then you don't, if you play something really old and obscure, you're going to, the majority of the audience is not going to know what it is.
Right.
And unless it was just like, well, it wouldn't be obscure, because it's God of Wonders or something, everybody knows that song, but it's just, so it's always kind of a balancing act, but the main thing is, without being too specific to songs, I think if people walk away going, man, that was a great show, and we loved Third Day, then, we feel like we've done our job, so, and it's just how do we arrive at that each night?
Right.
Question.
Now, over the years, how has your ministry of being Third Day change over the last maybe 5-10 years? Because when you start as a band, you have a ministry that your job as but your goal as a Christian artist is to be a ministry, and then as you progress throughout your career, that might evolve a little bit. Has it evolved with you, or is it pretty much the same as it was when you first started?
I mean, I don't know that it's evolved too much. I mean, the basic mission is, just telling people, just reminding the followers of Christ, reminding Christians and our fans just of God's immense love for them, and then also presenting that in a way that, there are always going to be a few people in the room that they're not so sure about this whole thing, and that might just be the security guys or somebody who's sweeping the floor or something. But, a lot of times they're just because you've got 3,000 or whatever number of people in there at the Third Day show doesn't mean everybody's in a great place with regards to faith. And so if you can present it in a way, which we try to do, it's just like, it's not a big altar call moment. It's just reminding people and just reminding them that they are, Max says all the time that, you're the children of God, and just, it's kind of like putting that mantle over the body of Christ. It's really important that we see ourselves as children, that we see ourselves as His children and Him as our Father. Like that visual is, I think, incredibly important for everybody because it takes it away from this like law-based, these are the things you must do to earn salvation thing. Rather than that, it's more like, this is who you are. This is your identity in Christ. If you're in Christ, you're a new creation, and reminding people of that. And then also just, we hear stories all the time about people who've just been, going through really rough stuff. And I mean, I know every artist, every Christian artist hears that, from their fans, hey, we went through this last year, we went through that, my son just died, my wife just died, we just lost our house, just whatever it may be, and to speak to that, to people each night, to be able to speak hope, and just the peace of Christ to be sort of presented to them, even in a rock show, even when we're up there having fun and jumping around, just that there can be this message of like, that doesn't have to be the end for you, that Christ still loves you, and He's still working in you, and He wants to work in you if you'll let Him, and that's kind of been I think that's been the mission all along. But we've all gotten older, and we've got grown kids, or growing kids. They're getting in their teenage years now, and we've been married. All of us have been married a long time, and we've been through a lot more seasons of life than we had been through when we first started. And you start to have sort of a compassion for people that is different than, I think when you're 20, you don't really understand what it would be like to be 40 or to have kids, and you're just, so it's given us, I think, a compassion that we just couldn't have had otherwise.
And as far as ministry goes, this year's Roadshow is interesting to me because you've got two bands on the bill, We As Human and Skillet, who regularly tour in not just the Christian market, but in the secular market as well. So they've built up followings that are not Christians. So a lot of people coming to some of these shows may not be Christians, or they may have never heard that message because they're coming to see those two bands. And so it's interesting because there's a completely new opportunity with these shows to present that message out there. And
absolutely.
Has that been something that's crossed your mind at all while getting ready to do these shows?
Well, I haven't given it a lot of thought because we've just been focused on our portion of the show, and we don't really get to hang out in those circles as much that they do. Just our music's a little more blatant, I think, and people just kind of know, well, right off the bat, oh, they must be a Christian rock band. So they, but I think, I love that. I love that. There's always this tension. We talk about it all the time, and you've heard Switchfoot talk about it, and Sixpence None the Richer when they were, really in their heyday, and Need to Breathe. There's so many bands that are always, and they're choosing to reside in that tension, which I commend them for it.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's just that tension of like, look, we're not going to abandon what we believe, but we're also not willing to just lay it all out there on a banner that's like got a scripture written on it and a fish on the, a little Christian fish at the end of our name, or I mean, not that other Christian artists would do that, but you know what I mean? Like, just, there's like this subtlety thing that I think sometimes we miss that in the church. I think the church sometimes can be made up. I mean, it can be made up of a large number of people that can be. They kind of just want to hand it to them like at face value, and I get it because it's faith is faith, and it's integral. It's like at the core of our lives, and so it doesn't need to be washed in a lot of ambiguity. It needs to be. There's an element of it that needs to be right there in your face, but not as an assault or not in some sort of what's the word? I mean, you don't want it to be offensive and or overtly offensive. It will be offensive to some people no matter how you present it. But we've always been like, where do we just question what ourselves, like how do we engage that but not be, like, because people know who we are. They know what we are. So if we tried to come out next year with and do this big secular push, it's kind of like silly because people are going to just instantly, oh yeah, that's third day there for sure.
Right, exactly. It's about how it's there are certain bands who are able to do that because it's about how they present the message that's within the lyrics and within the music, and there's a certain audience that can take to that. There's a certain audience that doesn't. There's a select few artists and bands that can cross over and be very successful doing it, and there's some artists that their audience is the Christian audience because they still need that message as well, and sometimes they need that. They need the reminder, and they need they need to be able to connect with that.
Right. Well, and it can be a little bit of a no man's land for some artists too, because because there's, let's face it, there's a kind of a ceiling on how far you can take that in the secular world. I mean, there's a certain point where if you're not cussing and living a lascivious lifestyle, or whatever the word is, where you're just out there and really living the rock and roll lifestyle and being, which I don't even like that expression, the rock and roll lifestyle, very much, but we all know what that means. If you're not living that way, if you're not talking about it, if you're not provocative, then you kind of people lose interest, and or at least the people outside the church probably lose interest.
Yeah.
And I think if you are, I don't know, I think, but then we live in the tension of like, okay, if we don't write songs that have this certain sound to them and this certain blatant message, then is it going to get played on the radio? Is Christian radio going to play it? And so there's just a tension there. And I think that the big side to all that is that we've had this longevity, and I think, Skillet's had this longevity, and Switchfoot has, and Mercy Me has. I mean, all these bands that have the longevity because Christian fans are really loyal, and they don't just move on quickly,
Right.
And I was trying to think of an analogy earlier before I called you that I feel like sometimes mainstream music is like a freeway where if you just stand there and watch, you see cars going by really quickly, and sometimes they're going slow, and then you get a good glimpse, but they're just whipping by, and that's like songs that just 1 minute they're there, the next minute they're gone, and it's like it can be a flash in the pan, and I feel like Christian music is like a parking lot where a good song comes in, it gets parked, and it stays there a long time, and it becomes a part of people's lives, and you hear it on the radio 15 years later, and it's still being played as as a relevant, not necessarily new song, but it's still got a current quality to it.
And I don't relate to you as in your life.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's, I don't know, you just have to keep wrestling with it, and and I get it, because there's a point where every artist wants to be able to expand their audience beyond just the walls of the church. But we don't want to do it in a way that's compromising. But we just want to be. I mean, we're human beings, and we want people to like what we do. But it's just balance. It's just a balance. So.
Right. So after the roadshow is done, and after the small run after the roadshow, do you guys have anything lined up after that's done that you can talk about, or are you just kind of taking it one tour at a time right now?
It's kind of one tour at a time. I mean, I think we'll probably go in April and May and start trying to write some new songs and see where we are with a new record, and to see what. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you got to do that every 18 months. You got to at least be in that mode, and that'll be the time to be in that mode for sure.
Okay, awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today. It's been great.
You're welcome.
It's been great, and I can't wait to see you on either one of the roadshow dates or when you hit Indianapolis here on February 28th.
Yes.
Hopefully I can catch you on both. If not, I will be catching you here in Indianapolis. I cannot wait. So
sounds good, man. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we'll see you then.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Take it easy.
All right. God bless.
See ya.